Good day once again and welcome to my video lesson. This video lesson is the continuation of the topic Power and Accountability. And in this lesson, we are going to discuss the following: Power and Governance, Power and Citizenship, and Responsibility and Accountability. Now let's begin our discussion with the topic Power and Governance. The Constitution gives the government the inherent powers that it can enact in pursuit of national goals and objectives. Approved by the 1986 Constitutional Commission on October 12, 1986, the 1987 Constitution of the Republic of the Philippines was presented to the then President Corazon Cojuangco Aquino on October 15, 1986. It was ratified on February 2, 1987 by a plebiscite. It was proclaimed in force on February 11, 1987. Police powers refers to the ability of the state to use the police force to ensure law and order in society. The Philippine National Police is the national police force of the Republic of the Philippines. It is both a national and a local police force, and that it provides all law enforcement services throughout the Philippines. The Philippine National Police is tasked with enforcing the law to prevent and control crimes, maintain peace and order, and ensure public safety and internal security with the active support of the community. The preservation of peace and stability is an important factor in promoting economic development. The Philippine National Police is now headed by Chief Police General Guillermo Lorenzo T. Eliazar, vowed to continue working with the Philippine Drug Enforcement Agency. Eminent domain is the power of the government to acquire private property for public use. Eminent domain refers to the power of the government to take private property and convert it into public use. The Fifth Amendment provides that the government may only exercise this power if they provide just compensation to the property owners. Eminent domain refers to the power of the government to take private land for public use under certain circumstances. For example, the government may sometimes take someone's house to make room for a new highway or a bridge. Under the 1987 Constitution, the power of eminent domain is contained in Article 3, Section 9. Power of taxation allows the government to impose and collect taxes from its citizens. These powers enable the government to undertake its activities as well as ensure the safety of citizens. The Bureau of Internal Revenue is mandated by law to assess and collect all national internal revenue taxes, fees, and charges, and to enforce all forfeitures, penalties, and fines connected therewith, including the execution of judgment in all cases decided in its favor by the Court of Tax Appeals. The Bureau of Internal Revenue is an agency of Department of Finance. BIR collects more than half of the total revenues of the government. Cesar Dulay is the current commissioner of BIR. The state may also express its power in less evident ways, such as indoctrination or propaganda. This may be implemented through various institutions such as schools, churches, and the media. Indoctrination is the process of inculcating a person with ideas, attitudes, cognitive strategies, or professional methodologies. Some distinguish indoctrination from education on the basis that the indoctrinated person is expected not to question or critically examine the doctrine they have learned. Government use public education and public ownership of the media to control the information that their citizens receive. In regional and international politics, states also exercise certain forms of power as they interact with each other. Military power refers to the capability of the state to wage war against another state and is evident in resources such as military troops and weapons. The armed forces of the Philippines, being the protector of the people, plays a crucial role in preserving peace and harmony by defending the country against terrorism and other forms of threats, whether of civilian or military nature. Military power potential consists in the resources that a nation-state can mobilize against another nation-states for purposes of military deterrence, defense, and war. It is defined as the ability to affect the behavior of other nation-states through the actual or threatened exertion of force. The Chief of Staff of the Armed Forces of the Philippines is the highest military officer in the armed forces. He commands all its elements, the Philippine Air Force, Philippine Army, and Philippine Navy. He directly answers to the President of the Philippines, who is the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Philippines. Ex-Army Chief Faustino named Armed Forces of the Philippines Chief of Staff, 10th under Duterte's administration. The new Chief Lieutenant General Jose Faustino named as the new Armed Forces of the Philippines Chief on July 30, 2021. Economic power refers to the use of economic resources and finances and the ability of states that influence other nations by denying or giving them the access to certain resources. Economic power is the ability of countries, businesses, or individuals to improve their standard of living. It increases their freedom to make decisions and benefit themselves alone and reduces the ability of any outside force to reduce their freedom. Purchasing power is a significant component of economic power. What is then the role of the government in economic? First, the government provides the legal and social framework within which the economy operates. Second, maintains competition in the marketplace. Third, provides public goods and services. Number 4, redistributes income. Number 5, correct for externalities. And the last, number 6, takes certain actions to stabilize the economy. Psychological power refers to the ability of a state to use its image or reputation in influencing other countries. This power requires the wise use of diplomacy, propaganda, and mass media to successfully achieve the goals of the state. In psychological science, power is defined as one's capacity to alter another person's condition or state of mind by providing or withholding resources, such as food, money, knowledge, and affection, or administering punishments, such as physical harm, job termination, or social ostracism. Political psychology applies what is known about human psychology to the study of political behavior, focusing on individuals within a specific political system. Political psychology, at the most general level, is an application of what is known about human psychology to the study of politics. Now let's move on to the next topic, which is power and citizenship. The recognition of the sovereign citizens is evident in the rights and privileges guaranteed by the states. The Bill of Rights, stated on Article 3 of the 1987 Philippine Constitution, enumerates the various political, social, and economic rights that citizens enjoy. These rights, in turn, come with a set of responsibilities which citizens must fulfill to exercise power and participate fully within a democracy. Article 3 of the Philippine Constitution is the Bill of Rights. It establishes the relationship of the individual to the state and defines the rights of the individual by limiting the lawful powers of the state. It is one of the most important political achievements of the Filipinos. The first concept of citizenship that took shape in the 18th century was civil citizenship, which focused on individual freedom and rights. When they drafted the 1787 Constitution, they did not define what they meant by natural-born citizen or citizen of the United States, and said very little about immigration. Without the right to naturalize, immigrants would not be able to vote and would have no political voice or power. In Europe, the concept of citizenship first arose in towns and in city-states of ancient Greece, where it generally applied to property owners but not to women, slaves, or the poorer members of the community. A citizen in a Greek city-state was entitled to vote and was liable to taxation and military service. Political citizenship emerged in the 19th century and emphasized participation and exercise political power by citizens. The citizenship rights developed rapidly in the first half of the 19th century, both as a response to a result of several developments. The evolution of mass participating political party system as well as the westward migration created a strong popular impetus for expanding suffrage among white males. Liberalism in the early 19th century stood for freedom for the individual and equality to all before law for the new middle classes. Important points are as follows. It means freedom of equality before a law. It included end of aristocracy and clerical privileges. It meant representative government through parliament. The most recent concept of citizenship which emerged in the 20th century was social citizenship. This focused on economic, cultural, and social well-being and set standards that must be enjoyed by all citizens. A citizen is a participatory member of a political community. Citizenship is gained by meeting the legal requirements of a national, state, or local government. A nation grants certain rights and privileges to its citizens. In return, citizens are expected to obey their country's laws and defend it against its enemies. The state has instituted formal means by which citizens are able to directly participate in government. Suffrage is the power of citizens that enables them to vote in public elections and run for public office. Suffrage may be exercised by all citizens of the Philippines, not otherwise disqualified by law, who are at least 18 years of age, and who shall have resided in the Philippines for at least 1 year, and in the place wherein they propose to vote for at least 6 months immediately preceding the election. Congressman Pilimon Soto of Cebu filed the first women's suffrage bill at the 1907 Philippine Assembly. The Philippines was one of the first Asian countries to allow this right for women. Referendum is like an election, but instead of electing officials, citizens vote for or against a proposal or law. According to the Initiative and Referendum Act, a referendum is the power of the electorate to approve or reject a legislation through an election called for this purpose. A constitutional referendum was held in the Philippines on November 14, 1967. Plebiscite refers to the process by which citizens approve or propose changes to the Constitution. Plebiscite, a vote by the people of an entire country or district to decide on some issue such as choice of a ruler or government, option for independence or annexation by another power, or a question of national policy. One example of the plebiscite was occurred on September 10, 2000, for which San Jose del Monte was proclaimed as a component city under Republic Act No. 8797. It is said to be the largest town in the whole province of Bulacan in terms of land area and population, also known as the balcony of the metropolis. It is then the first city in the province of Bulacan and recorded as the 86th city of the entire Philippines. Then, on December 18, 2003, the city of San Jose del Monte became the first lone congressional district in Bulacan. Initiative is a process by which citizens directly propose laws or amendments to the Constitution. An initiative is the method by which voters may propose new laws or amend existing laws by gathering signatures from registered voters to place the issue on the ballot. People's Initiative is a common appellative in the Philippines that refers to either a mode for constitutional amendment provided by the 1987 Philippine Constitution or to the act of pushing an initiative, national or local, allowed by the Philippine Initiative and Referendum Act of 1987. And let us now proceed to the last subtopic of power and accountability, which is the responsibility and accountability. Responsibility is closely tied to obligation, which refers to an action that an individual is required to perform. Accountability refers to the acknowledgement of responsibility for an action and its consequences. Though the rules and responsibility vary greatly through time and place, government must create them. Governments provide the parameters for everyday behavior for citizens, protect them from outside interference, and often provide for their well-being and happiness. Accountability basically provides a very important role in creating a good governance activity as part of improving public confidence in government performance. And then, horizontal accountability is the responsibility that is conveyed to the general community. Legal responsibilities refer to a set of obligations outlined by law and moral responsibilities, which refers to doing actions that are morally and socially acceptable and deserving of praise. It shall be the duty of the citizen to be loyal to the Republic and to honor the Philippine flag, to defend the state, and contribute to its development and welfare, to uphold the Constitution and obey the laws. Legal responsibilities are not only liable to the individuals in the society, but also to the businesses in the society. For example, it's a business duty to pay taxes to the government and keep its account books clean, as it helps the government to track the economic state of the company. There are various ways that power can be abused by public officials and leaders. Abuse of authority refers to the use of authorized power for illegal acts or stepping beyond the bounds of authorized action. Abuse of authority means improper use of position and power or non-performance of an act acquired by law for the purpose of obtaining an undue advantage for himself, his relative, another person or entity, or favoring another person or entity. Abuse of discretion is the willful disregard for the rules or proper procedures. Improper exercise of discretion includes such things as taking irrelevant considerations into account, acting for improper purpose, asking wrong questions, acting in bad faith, neglecting to take into consideration relevant factors, acting unreasonably, and etc. Abuse of power pertains to misconduct in office, where an official performs unlawful actions while in office. Abuse of power occurs when a leader acts in a manner that manipulates an area of control for personal gain at the follower's expense, all the while avoiding basic managerial responsibility. Intention may or may not be present. Consider the power to reward. The most evident example of abuse of power in government is corruption, which is the use of authority or influence for private interests. Corruption is seen in various acts or activities such as patronage, nepotism, bribery, and influence peddling. Graft is a form of political corruption where an official uses public funds for his or her personal gain. Let us elaborate the various acts or activities that can be seen in corruption, such as patronage, nepotism, bribery, and influence peddling. When we say patronage, it is the support, encouragement, privilege, or financial aid that an organization or individual bestows on another. In some countries, the term is used to describe political patronage, which is the use of the state resources to reward individuals for their electoral support. Nepotism is the act of giving opportunities to others simply because of a personal relationship. By definition, bribery is offering something desirable or something of value in exchange for getting something in return. Example, giving a congressman money to get a lucrative government contract job is an example of bribery. And influence peddling refers to the practice of using one's influence in government or connection with persons in authority to obtain favors or preferential treatment for another, usually in return for payment, also called traffic of influence or trading in influence. Article 11 of the 1987 Constitution defines how public officials are to be held accountable in the conduct of their duties. The Constitution mandates the establishment of the Office of the Ombudsman to investigate cases of alleged abuses by public officials and government employees. The country's anti-graft court, the Sandigan Bayan, is empowered to hear and decide on cases involving graft and corruption and abuse of power of public officials. There are also other related agencies that address cases of abuse of power and graft and corruption in government. The number one is Presidential Commission on Good Government, known as PCGG. The Presidential Commission on Good Government is a political quasi-judicial government agency whose primary mandate is to recover ill-gotten wealth accumulated by Ferdinand Marcos, his immediate family, relatives, subordinates, and close associates, whether located in the Philippines or abroad. Number 2 is Commission on Human Rights. The Commission on Human Rights have the following powers and functions: investigate on its own or on complaint by any party all forms of human rights violations involving civil and political rights. Monitor the Philippine government's compliance with international treaty obligations on human rights. Number 3 is Commission on Audit. Commission on Audit is an independent constitutional commission established by the Constitution of the Philippines. It has the primary function to examine, audit, and settle all accounts and expenditures of the funds and properties of the Philippine government. And number 4 is Senate Committee on Accountability of Public Officers and Investigations, also known as the Blue Ribbon Committee. The Senate Committee on Accountability of Public Officers and Investigations of the Senate of the Philippines, or more popularly known as the Blue Ribbon Committee, is the Senate committee tasked to investigate alleged wrongdoings of the government, its officials, and its attached agencies, including government-owned corporations. And that's all for the completion of the topic, Power and Accountability. Thank you very much for listening, and goodbye.